One of my favorite staple crops here in Tampa are the true yams, which is the Dioscorea family. There's a lot of confusion in our culture about the true yams versus sweet potatoes, which are the Ipomaea family. Ipomaea, I think is how you're supposed to say it, which is the morning glory family. The true yams, and here's a little aerial tuber in my hand that came off of this vine, which is now is dead last fall. Here's the tip of the new shoot emerging. This is a structure made out of rebar outside my bedroom window that in the summertime is covered with vines to cool the air entering my house at night. The vines die back in the winter, freeze or no freeze, and you can see here these beautiful leaves emerging from a tuber that I did not eat way underground here. I've got many of them planted along this whole rebar structure. Way at the back there by the bedroom window, you can see some very fat stalks coming up in front of the grating by my window, and within 2 months or so this whole structure of dead vines on the rebar will be a lush green canopy because of the true yams. Now let's walk around here and I'll show you another place where this variety is growing. This one is African yellow, Dioscorea cayensis. Oh, let's take a look at these morning glories here. These things are just so beautiful. Walk around here. What's interesting is the true yams taste like a potato. They don't. There's no relationship to sweet potato botanically. Here's one. Let me step further back. Emanating from underground, and actually I had eaten. Let's see if I can show you this. Here's what's coming out of the ground. I'd actually dug up and eaten most of this one this winter. I obviously missed a piece. It's now snaking up this rebar. It's grown outside the confines of the rebar. You can see here. So my job is to use strips of pantyhose to attach it to the rebar, pieces of speaker wire, and at some point it'll simply be self-consuming. And it'll just grab this rebar, and by August there'll be this great big green monolithic blob here. The true yams are basically weeds. They have minimal needs for water, nutrients. I have about 5 varieties. This variety here coming up on my fence line is the ubi, the purple yam from the Philippines, which they use to make a purple ice cream. I love to just simply fry them in coconut oil with a little bit of roasted sesame oil, sea salt, and garlic, and some hot pepper. The tubers underground are huge. Let's go back to this one on my hand. This little aerial tuber of Dioscorea cayensis, if I plant this today, a year from now, if I dig it up, it's going to be about the size of a bowling ball. Last summer I dug up a 2-year-old white Caribbean yam, which the Hispanic peoples call nyame, and that puppy weighed 20 pounds. What's nice about the true yams is they have a nice savory taste like a French fry made from an Idaho potato. And once you dig up these huge tubers, they don't need refrigeration. You can let it sit out, go out there, hack off a chunk that you want to cook with. The new cut surface heals over, and each time you want a new chunk, you cut off the old scabby surface and slice off a new one. Raw, the true yams are very, very slimy, and they gross people out. But when you cook them, whether you fry them or boil them or bake them, they take on a texture very much like a baked Idaho potato. I've got my purple ubis located all along my west fence. Here's another one breaking dormancy. You can see where they just erupt out of the ground. Here's the base. And you'll notice that the true yams, the growth habit is vertical. They go up. Fences, trees, anything. Sweet potatoes are a ground cover. Now here's a shoot I see coming out of the ground here. Look at this. This is a classic true yam. You can see this big fat stalk coming from underground. Here's where the tuber is. And it's snaking along the ground and now going up the fence. The foliage is beautiful in midsummer. A lot of people come over here and they wonder what the beautiful vines are that have consumed the fence. And they're surprised to find out it's the true yam. Again, very few Americans know what a true yam is or have eaten one, and I'm encouraging anybody who lives in a subtropical climate like Tampa to give them a try. The easiest way to buy one is to look for something like this at the grocery store. Go to the Hispanic food section where they have the cassava tubers dipped in wax, and look for something called ñame. It's like the word name, and I think there's a little dealy bob over the N or the A. And just buy a small one, plant it, and in a year you'll have a huge underground tuber. This is related to the air potato, which is an invasive here in Florida, and all the true edible yams do the same thing each fall. You'll see these little aerial tubers all up and down the length of the vine. Harvest them, plant them, and that way they can't become invasive. I personally don't care for the texture or taste of the aerial tubers, but once they're planted and they become large, and I do mean large. One year I dug up one that had grown for 5 years. It took me 2 days to get out of the ground. It weighed 65 pounds. That was a white Caribbean ñame. But go ahead and pick the tubers and as they form in the vine right around October and plant them, and you'll have basically a perpetual food supply. Is right now in this backyard, I could easily dig up several hundred pounds of yams. I have Caribbean whites and Chinese white on the east fence, my purple ubies here on the west fence, and my African yellows I've limited pretty much to these rebars along the perimeter of the garden along the anti-chicken fence. That's pretty much it. I just want to give people a crash course on the true yams. Again, the family is called Dioscorea. The sweet potatoes, Ipomaea, and both need hot, steamy temperatures. Lots of rainfall is their preference, and both are extremely easy to grow as long as you have long, warm, hot, mild days. Give them a try. Bye-bye.